Ford v Ferrari is directed by James Mangold and stars Christian Bale and Matt Damon. During the 1960s, when the Ford Motor Company's brand's sales were declining due to their unexciting public image, an idea is concocted wherein Ford will build a car that will win the 24 Hours of Le Mans and beat Ferrari, who are the regular winners. They hire Matt Damon's Carroll Shelby to build the car, and he enlists the help of Christian Bale's Ken Miles, a hot-tempered and struggling mechanic. James Mangold is a director who makes films that I like. 310 to Yuma, Walk the Line, The Wolverine, Logan, Night and Day. Yes, that Night and Day, it's great fun, shut up. And I didn't know the true story behind this, I didn't know how it would end, I have no interest in racing, but years ago in 2013 a film called Rush came out and taught me that if a movie's good enough, it doesn't matter if you're interested in this particular subject matter or not. And that's about Formula One, which I didn't think it was possible to make a decent movie about, let alone a really good one, which Rush is. Christian Bale has a very English accent in this, and this is probably one of his most likeable characters he's ever played. He's fun to watch, but you also understand why the other characters have a hard time dealing with him. He's very passionate and stubborn, and Bale is just so good he disappears into this role like he does with all of his others. He has a very tan face, like he spent too much time outdoors in the sun, and his hands are never not covered in grease or oil. One look at him and you're like, that guy's a worker. He gets a fantastic introduction. He's in his garage working on a car while some customer complains that his car hasn't been fixed, and Bale explains to him that it has been fixed. The guy just doesn't know how to properly drive a car like that, which surprisingly the guy doesn't like. Matt Damon, at least for me, isn't as much of a disappear into the role kind of guy these days, and he doesn't go as big as Bale does, but he's still great in this part. And he's a very talented and watchable actor. He gives the part a lot of emotion, and he gets across really well the conflict going on inside him when he's being asked to do things by Ford that he doesn't want to do. Both actors get some great satisfying scenes where they get to show off how much they know and how good they are at what they do to some clueless executive who thinks that they have all the answers. And the two work well together. You feel the friendship and the respect and the frustration that they feel towards the other's approaches to different problems, especially ones that the Ford company creates. Damon tries to work it out, or at least grit his teeth through it, and Bale just wants to tell them to go fuck themselves. They're two guys whose lives are all about cars and building cars and racing cars, and the passion comes through in the performances, which helps audience members like me, who don't give a shit about cars, care about what's happening. They also get one of those fight scenes where the two guys are pissed at each other, but they're also still friends, but also they really don't know how to fight, so they just end up rolling around and slapping and pinching each other. It's really funny. The film begins with a plan for Ford to buy Ferrari and bolster their image that way. But when Enzo Ferrari insults them and sells his company to Fiat instead, that's when the plan to build their own car and the rivalry with Ferrari begins. But that aspect of the story doesn't last very long. Ferrari quickly becomes less of an antagonist and more of a symbol of success and achievement that our leads are aiming for. The real versus in the Ford v Ferrari is between Damon and Bale and Ford. This made more sense to me because in any other movie we'd be rooting for Ferrari's handmade, financially struggling, artistic, small-scale style against Ford's mass-produced, by-committee, big business. The real story is these two guys trying to build this car and win this race, and Ford wanting that same general outcome, but they want it done their way, in a way that's good for the Ford brand, that looks good for marketing purposes. Josh Lucas perfectly embodies the douchey, interfering executive who doesn't want Bale to drive the car during the race because he doesn't have the right image. If you're thinking, I don't know about racing, I don't care about racing, it doesn't matter, you'll still be able to get into this because of how well made it is, but also, it's a story that can be related to almost any type of endeavour that involves money and people creating things. You know, kind of like filmmaking. It's the art versus commerce debate. All that being said, I could have used a wee bit more of a reason to root against Ferrari. Because this movie is really about the struggles of these two guys, it has a lot of heart and you feel good when they succeed at what they're doing. I also really like the relationship between Bale and his family, especially his son. He's a very loving father and they get a lot of great moments together, which makes scenes where Bale is in danger and his son's watching on very moving. There's also some great scenes between Bale and his wife, even if she is introduced in that really cliched way of them pretending that they don't know each other and they have a big long conversation where it's just very flirty. The racing scenes look really good. You can really feel the speed and the driver's experience of going really fast, but it doesn't sacrifice the clarity and geography of the sequences. It really helps that the cars all look great and are very different from each other, both in shape and colour, so it's easy to tell who's who and where they are in relation to each other. They are actually good looking cars and not ugly NASCAR metal boxes or, you know, razors with wheels. It's nice to have a movie that has great sound design, but also has no choice but to draw attention to itself. There are moments where the cars are revving so hard, it sounds like they're going to explode. Something that I liked about Rush was its focus on the danger of racing. That it really is incredibly dangerous and life-threatening to compete in these races, and that's a big part of the film's plot and themes. I would have liked a bit more of that here, but this film has a bit more of a fun tone than that film because it doesn't focus on it. But I don't know, I think they could have achieved both. Every time a race comes up, the stakes and the obstacles are always made very clear, so even if you don't like racing, you'll still be engaged. It's usually Josh Lucas saying something like, if they don't win, then they won't get to do this or that, but it still works. Jon Bernthal, as usual, is really good, but once the plot about building their own car gets going, we rarely get to see him, and we tend to see more of Josh Lucas's Dick character, and I think it would have been nice to get a bit more of a balance between those two character types. The film also opens and closes with Damon in voiceover talking about how when you hit, I think it's 7,000 RPM, the car disappears and you're just a body moving through space and time. And that was one thing that fell really flat for me. Like, oh, okay, maybe he's trying to get across in words how it feels to go that fast. But I didn't really get what it had to do with the story, especially what it had to do with what's happening on screen the second time he says it. It feels like it's supposed to be an expression of like the theme or something, but it doesn't really seem to match. Or maybe I just didn't get it. I have heard of Shelby's, that's Matt Damon's character's brand of cars, and I've heard of Henry Ford, and I'm pretty sure that I've heard Lee Iacocca's name come up in like The Simpsons once maybe, but I like movies that end with, this is a guy you've never heard of, but he existed and he did some amazing things, so you should probably remember him. And that's Bale's character, Ken Miles. He's not exactly Alan Turing, but you know who he is. I'm going to give Ford v Ferrari an A-. Whether you like racing or not, it's an interesting, fun, true story about a bygone time of motor racing. Great actors giving engaging performances, some really cool cars, and lots of moments of passionate rebels getting one over on the man. Is it the best movie about racing that's ever been made? No, I'd say it's about on the same level as Rush, for me at least, because I really like that film. But the greatest racing movie of all time will always be Speed Racer. I'm not joking. Thank you very much for watching my review. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Look at the Movies. All helps me out, helps the channel grow. Comment down below and let me know if you've seen Ford v Ferrari, what you thought of it, liked it, disliked it, agree or disagree with any of my points, or if you have any points of your own. I will be back soon with more reviews, and I will see you then.